John Eustace labelled a mark on his future with a big win over Norwich City on Tuesday night. But who is going to come out on top on this battle between John Eustace and QPR at the weekend? There's many different ways that it could go. Now in this video I'm going to be discussing what John Eustace changed on Tuesday night and how that could impact his future and the future Derby County going forward. We're going to be talking about the positives and the negatives of what could happen next. So if you have not done so already, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button and turn on that notification bell. But let's get into it. Now obviously for John Eustace, it was a huge game on Tuesday night as he searched for his first win at Pride Park Stadium in the 2025-26 season, and a goal from David Ozo sealed the deal for Derby County as Norwich City were unable to take the opportunities that they were presented in the first half. And ultimately Derby County were not great on the night, but a big goal from David Ozo sealed the deal, and ultimately that's what we're going to talk about today. Now obviously for Derby County it was a massive game going into it. I spoke about it, many other people across the course of social media were speaking about it, and ultimately it was a very, very big afternoon. It was a huge game for Derby County where realistically the win was much needed. And I think when we discuss how Derby County were before the game and how they were heading into the game, I think it was massively important that Derby County were able to get that on the board for me. Now, when we discussed John Eustace over the course of the last few days, one of the key things that I was key to discuss was the lack of midfield and the lack of ability to actually create chances. Now, I'm not going to turn around and say that last night we created a ton of chances, because ultimately I don't actually think we did. But what we did do was we got ourselves into positions where chances could be created. Patrick Agyemang could have scored a couple. Carlton Morris could have scored a couple. Now, the big difference between what we see in football now compared to what we saw in the past was you'd have many people come out and go, oh, we should have scored loads of chances. We had these chances, blah, blah, blah. Whereas now we have an actual metric to judge those chances, which I always think is quite good to actually go and look at. Now, I'm not going to say that up against Norwich last night we created an abundance of chances, but in terms of the chances we did create, they were very, very high quality. 0.95 xg, and of those shots 7 of the 8 were in the box, and I think that's the very, very important thing that we need to keep an eye on. Now, do I think that this has a huge impact for John Eustace going forward? In my personal opinion, I do. I think what we saw on Tuesday was a first half of dire football, a first half of terrible football, and I'm going to be completely honest with you, the fact that Ben Briatan-Diaz came out for the second half, I was very, very surprised. But ultimately John Eustace made that change at half time. He brought on Sondre Langås, and I think that spells a positive move for Derby County going forward. Like I genuinely do. Now, if we split up the stats between first half and second half, in the first half, Norwich City were absolutely dominant. 10 shots, 0.79 xg and 72% possession. Derby County only attempted 99 passes in that first half. You go to the second half, and don't get me wrong, it wasn't much different, but Derby County had much more shooting opportunities. 5 shots, 3 on target, 2 big chances. And ultimately the goal they scored through David Ozo was not a big chance. It was ultimately a hit and hope really from David Ozo, but what an unbelievable finish it actually was. And I was amazed to see that ball go in the back of the net, and it's absolutely brilliant that it did. But it's one of those that we do have to discuss. And it's one for me which I think does have an impact on what happens with John Eustace over the course of the next few months. Now, obviously, we've got a huge game on Saturday up against QPR. My matchday preview will be out tomorrow morning discussing that. But I just thought it was key for me to discuss John Eustace's future, because I've spoken about it a lot in terms of the negatives over the course of the last week or so. So I think it's good to point out the positives as well. John Eustace made a star-studded change at half-time on Tuesday night, and ultimately it changed everything. In my opinion, Sondre Langås is probably the best defender in the Championship, and I know he's playing at a team that ultimately isn't the best team in the Championship, but for me, Sondre Langås, in my opinion, could play in the Premier League. He is absolutely unbelievable, and the way that he changed the game from centre-back is absolutely outrageous, and that's something that we're going to have to continue to see from Derby County, is bringing players like Sondre Langås back into the fold, giving someone like Lars-Jørgen Selvesen an opportunity from the off, because I thought when he came on, I thought he was unbelievable. And do I think that Lars-Jørgen Selvesen should start over a Carlton Morris or a Patrick Agyemang? Ultimately, not quite. But do I think he deserves the opportunity to play games? Ultimately, absolutely yes. Now, the big problem that Derby County do face is we're not in any cup competitions, which ultimately means that the likes of Lars Jørgen Selvesen and things like that ultimately won't get their opportunities to break into the team during a midweek fixture. But ultimately, with the games that we've got coming up, you've got QPR on Saturday. I think there's another 4 games before the international break after that QPR game, which is absolutely huge for me. Now, do I think that Derby County can pick up another 3 points on Saturday? Absolutely. Do I think they're going to? Honestly, I don't know. It's going to be a huge week for Derby County. If they can pick up 3 points on Saturday, it puts them right back in that picture of where I said that Derby County were dark horses, and it puts them right back in that position where you can start discussing that again for me. Because another 3 points playing up against QPR, who currently find themselves in 11th. If Derby County pick up 3 points, they can put themselves as high as 13th place. Ultimately, that would then put them about 4 or 5 points off those playoff positions, which is absolutely huge. And this is where we have to give John Eustace his flowers. The result we picked up against West Brom, it wasn't a great game, but it was a great result. The game last night, it wasn't a great game, but it was a great result. And I think Derby County were much, much better in the second half. But I think it's key that we don't sort of put all our eggs in this basket of thinking that Derby County have solved all their issues because of a good half against a team that couldn't finish their dinner. We've got to acknowledge the fact that we could have been 3 or 4 goals down in that first half, and that's something that needs to be dealt with over the course of these upcoming days heading into the game versus QPR, because ultimately I have a feeling if we give QPR those same chances, we won't be sitting here talking about a victory, we'll be sitting here talking about a defeat. Now, can John Eustace solve these problems? Of course he can. We saw it last season. He made Derby County a defensively solid team, and ultimately we put in playoff form for the best part of the last 10-11 games of the season. But there's a lot of work that needs to be done by John Eustace and a lot of work that needs to be done by this Derby County team. Now, obviously, you can let me know your thoughts on that down in the comments. I'm really intrigued to hear what you guys have to say. Obviously, there's been a lot of people over the course of the last few days that haven't really agreed with some of the points I've made in regards to John Eustace. But ultimately, it's one of those where I'm here to have those uncomfortable conversations. Whether it puts me in a bad position later down the line or not, for me, that isn't an issue. I am here to have those conversations that people maybe aren't willing to have and aren't willing to discuss. Do I trust John Eustace? Absolutely. Do I think there's problems for Derby County at the moment? Also, absolutely. But do I think we can solve them? Absolutely. Now, obviously, there's plenty of other managers out there if those problems don't get solved, and we discussed that in a previous video. Now, if you have not done so already, make sure you go ahead and check out my matchday vlog from Derby County versus Norwich City. We got David Ozo's goal on camera, and it was an absolute screamer. But it's one of those for me. Are Derby County going to get better over the course of the next few weeks? I certainly do hope so. Can we find a position for Patrick Adjiman, Carlton Morris and Ryan Brewster all in the same lineup? And who is going to replace Ibu Adams? That is something that we discuss in tomorrow's video, where Derby County take on QPR. But let me know your thoughts down in the comments. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and turn on that notification bell, and I'll catch you in the next one. Bye bye, guys.